As a young man, heard the sky's the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life damn, then I better go get it.
This podcast is being brought to you by the Reyes Group at IA Private Wealth. That is made up of myself, John Reyes, a wealth advisor, and Gillian Seguin, an associate wealth advisor.
Hello to our viewers. I am Gillian Seguin, associate wealth advisor at Reyes Group at IA Private Wealth.
And I am John Reyes of the Reyes Group, and I am a wealth advisor at IA Private Wealth.
Yes, you are.
We are. Oh, no, I'm trying to do this as
leader of the team. Okay.
Okay, and isn't this an interesting topic?
It's an interesting topic when we have John in the driver's seat here. And I touched on it in one of our previous podcasts that when we had gone to Montreal for the IA Private Wealth Conference, I had sat in a really interesting breakout session, at least I found it interesting, kind of talking about female investors and not comparing them to men, but just how they differ from men in their decision making, in their approach to investing, and really how they view their investment portfolios on the whole. So we have a variety of clients, and it's interesting, I don't know about you, but I find that male or female, they have their own preferences, whether they want to deal with a male advisor or a female advisor. You're not going to say much in this podcast, are you?
You know, because I can just see how eager Jill is. We didn't even get into our normal ranting. She's just ready to go. Can you please show our crowd the amount of notes that you actually have specifically related to this?
No.
So why don't I introduce the topic, because she's just so excited we didn't even get into it.
Let's go.
Are women better investors than men? She danced around it, and in reality, I think what's going to shock her is I believe that to be true.
It does not shock me because it is statistically true. John?
Is that one of the points
That's
on
one
your
of
sheet?
my
Isn't
Let
that
me
phenomenal?
check it off
Okay,
here.
check it off. That is one of the points. I'm going to start as I always do with the story and why I believe this statement to be true. Many years ago, I volunteered for Junior Achievement, which is a organization that prides itself in going into schools. I'm sure it's across Canada, but I can only speak to what was here in Calgary in terms of educating our individuals at school about financial literacy. That's the end objective. Now, Junior Achievement had a very, no disrespect, I think it's a great organization, but a lot of the stuff that they had me looking at was very, I found very archaic in nature, and it wasn't things that were keeping the kids stimulated. And so one of the things that I did one day in order to try to shift and get the crowd going, as it were, was I brought in a roll of loonies. And the first thing I did was I gave everyone in the class a loonie. Now understand that these kids are, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 12, 13 years old. And I gave everyone a loonie, and then I said, okay, we're going to play a little game. And I said, I have a coin in my hand, and I'm going to flip it. And before I gave them further rules, I said, this half of the class is going to be heads, and this half of the class is going to be tails. And everybody stand up. And I said, you're allowed to leave the game right now, if you'd like. But you have to make that decision very quickly. And so some of the kids sat immediately. I will tell you that in that first round, males were one of the predominantly ones that sat. Then I said, I'm going to flip a coin. And I progressed to flip the coin, and we would smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as the group went on each time, so that eventually we would have just one winner. And I will tell you that I ran this multiple times over a series of 2 to 3 years.
But you haven't outlined what you said you were doing.
I was assessing risk, is what I was doing.
Yeah, but you didn't explain what the kids' decision were, whether to sit or stand.
Okay, sorry, you're right. I got excited about the story. So with everybody, if you were on one side of the classroom, you were heads, and one side of the classroom, you were tails. And each interval, I would flip, and it was just a random exercise of if I was heads, that would be winning. The tail side would have to give them their money, and we would then have to restart the game. Now, as each level continued, I would then offer the class again an opportunity to say, if you'd like to keep what's in your hand and be happy with it, and you sit that money would not be taken from you. And each time, again, although sometimes girls would sit and sometimes boys would sit, proportionately, males sat more in the early stages than the females in the classroom. And near the end, this is the point that I was at, so thank you very much for reminding me to fill that gap. Near the end, often was the case, after running this so many times, I always found it interesting that I still had women, or girls I should say, because they were in school, girls, still be the ones standing and winning the game more often than not. So why do I bring that up? I bring that up because, one, there is there's this belief system that men inherently understand risk more than females, that males have a higher tendency of risk, that they can bear more risk. All these things that I'm telling you, doing this industry for 20 years, having a female partner, we all know that honestly this is a fallacy. It's not true. And it's also not conditioned based on age, because these were 10 to 12-year-old kids. And even at that age group, they had a fairly basic understanding of risk. And the risk tolerance was actually higher, or risk understanding, I should say, was a little higher in the female group than the male group. So yeah, I do think that women, in fact, even at the most basic rudimentary game of flipping heads or tails, have and are better, generally speaking, than males. That's my story for right now.
Thank you. You're not wrong. You're not
You
wrong.
love to say that, don't you?
First of all, shout out to Gray Lane Ceramics for these beautiful mugs.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what's in mine, but yes, shout out.
Delicious. Anyway, yes, there is absolutely a generalization that women are risk adverse, and that is contrary to what you saw. Because the reality is, women are
And
not
at a young age. That's the thing.
exactly, but women, girls, we are not risk adverse. What we are is risk aware. So
Very well said.
as long as women feel empowered and women have the opportunity to understand the rules of the game, understand what their plan B is and what is the worst case scenario, if they have everything laid out, they're actually 85% more likely to take on some risk. It's just that they need to understand all, as I say, all of the cards. They need to understand everything, and they will take risk. If they don't feel like they know what they're doing, they're not going to take on the risk. And I think that's really rooted in the fact that women view their money as a source of security. They have to have this holistic approach to investing. They like their financial plans. They like to understand how they're going to get to retirement and how they're going to be able to pay, for their retirement years. How are they going to make sure their kid gets to go to school? All of that stuff laid out, they really don't need to chase gains. They just want to be heard, understood, empowered, and feel secure. Whereas men, on the other side, they view their money in general as a source of success. So the more money they have, the more power. So they're more likely actually to take risks in the market sooner because they just need to have that sort of immediate gratification. So it's very interesting when you look at the two dynamics and you understand them, because that really caters to how we talk to our clients. It really caters to how we, have very different, well, at least I feel very different meetings when I meet with a female investor versus a male investor, and really how much time we go over the account performance, the investments that are held in the account versus what's going on in your life.
I can't believe I'm going to be the one to say this, because often you're the one taking this seat, but to be devil's advocate and to be able to give the other side of it, speaking as a male, again, and I'd like to be very clear that Jill doesn't have an agenda. She uses statements that are shared by our group in terms of just how we view and communicate. The purpose of this is being more gender specific in terms of females and males, but I think what we've learned being together for so long is it really, discussions about risk planning, as long as the people that are delivering that information, like Jill and I, and we remove the gender and we specifically speak to and taking the best parts of how women think and how men think, and you can blend it, is going to be what's really successful. I often attribute to building on what I'm saying, devil's advocate, is I would even say it's not as, now these are my words, I wouldn't say it's as aggressive as males wanting to define money with success. Rather, I think it's rooted in making emotionally charged decisions that they rather, in hindsight, if you probably talk to those men that did that, they probably would have taken a different approach. But unfortunately, men just don't seem to initially see the value, especially at a young age, of taking the minute or taking the time to understand maybe the other parts of it. They may still come to the same conclusion in making the decision, but as somebody who has learned to be a better listener over time, that is one of the biggest things that's come out of it. And having some of these conversations that are male to male, is some of them that I have at times, being able to see our clients be a little more vulnerable towards what they're looking for has really grown those relationships. So all I'm saying is it might start out as a very hot topic of, are women better than males in investing? I think it's actually more rooted in that there could be a lot of lessons learned in having a collaboration, which is what I'm proud of with what we do here.
1,000,000%. Yeah, I'm by no means saying that women are better investors.
Oh no, you did. You said that as your opening statement. We could run the tape back, I think.
I could.
Simon's nodding.
Simon actually just opened an account with me.
Oh, fair enough.
I'm just kidding.
That's good.
I'm
Okay,
just kidding.
Great, thank you.
No, but it's hard to look away from sort of what has been reported through these studies.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting because it doesn't, like you say, it doesn't mean you're picking better stocks or you're making better decisions. Sometimes it is emotional. And I read a Golden Globe and Mail report that talked about how women perform better simply because they're calmer in volatile markets. They're 8% less likely to sell in a volatile market than a male is. So that has nothing to do with intelligence or, again, picking the right investment. It's just navigating the markets in a calmer fashion, reacting versus responding, like we've talked about before.
100%. Not that I want to, as we've said many times, and it is in very big, bold, small print in any one of our podcasts. Please never take any of the information that we're saying here as a solicitation. Obviously, the decisions that we bring or ideas we bring to the table are very well thought out. So sorry, that's my mini disclaimer. A&W, right? So A&W is a.
Here we go again with the burgers.
I know.
Yet another burger analogy.
A&W restaurants, has been an investment that we've invested in for some time with our clients. Not every client, but for most of our clients. And what I have found is when we were doing our due diligence, and one of the big things that I told Jill was, and with a big smile on my face, is that the top 3 decision makers that are in that company are all female, from the CEO to the CFO, and I believe it's one other senior operator that runs. And the bigger part is back to your point of loyalty and keeping with the decision. Both of them have been there for quite significant time. One of them actually being there from when A&W was first traded as a publicly traded company. So those are really key things. And when we look at the decisions that are made as A&W, which, again, if we're going to generalize, burgers are often related to a man's type of food, having been run at the top by 2 very, very smart and successful women. That just only solidified for me as a male that this is going to be a well-run company, and it's turning out to be and will be a well-run company for sure. Well,
and we have been buying a fund, I won't say the name, but we've been buying a fund that
focuses on women.
That holds companies, a basket of companies that simply have a female CEO or 25%
in the C-suite.
board representation that is female. And this particular fund has been returning over 10% annually since its inception.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I don't know about you, but when I drilled down for the holdings and I looked at some of the companies, I was surprised.
Yeah, it's got a very international feel, and you know, it was one of these ones again that, you know, Jill and I collaborated on very quickly. You know, and that's the value, right, of having a understanding very quickly about, you know, it's not about pegging one against the other, right? You know, we will debate that all day long behind closed doors because it's just who we are. But in the end, it's the combined factors that come together, not only in how we look at it, but taking the best of Jill, taking the best, you know, of what I bring to the table. And a little known fact for those of you that don't know, even the Raise group itself is predominantly female employed, right? We have 3 people that are female to 2. And so again, there is something to be said that, you know, we're not looking at it because oh, we want to be recognized as an all, because they are the smartest people that I've found, period, or that Jill has found. And that is why we do it. There's no other reason. And, you know, it has had tremendous benefits in the way that we've grown the business.
Yeah. Another outside of that sort of unemotional or calmer decision making, another interesting fact is that that I read was that women are a lot less motivated by trends. So when cryptocurrency was the big talk of the town, you know, I think this report that I was talking about, the Globe and Mail report, was saying that 41% of women did not even look at it, just were not interested at all in all these fads or trends that hit the front page of the paper.
Yeah, it's you know, again, well, you know, we don't want this to be turning into a rah-rah, you know, we love women.
Yes, we do.
We love women and we hate men. I think it's just a matter of, you know, I look at it from a standpoint of, at the end of the day, you know, you entered a male-dominated industry.
Yes.
And it's been very difficult. I find that if an individual is too focused on having to justify themselves or work hard to be recognized, or you know, make room for themselves, as it were, in the office, we are wasting so much time actually getting into what is, you know, can be an untapped resource. And again, I would think that that is the area that I'd like to spend my time on in general, not in this podcast, but you know, and you know me, right? I'll say a lot of off the cuff things. I'll say a lot of things that are probably not the best, but the reality is where I hold my values and where I hold things is very much rooted in ensuring that we can just be there for our client base. And it's very, very prideful for me to be able to say to a client, you come to a team that has a female and a male presence, you've got more options in terms of being able to feel comfortable, and there is no hard feelings here, right? We're not trying to cut each other's throats to grow our practice. We've had women that have started with me and now are gravitated to you, right? We've had males that started with me and have gravitated to you. There are women that have come over my way, very few, but that is just the nature of where we are. And I encourage all of our clients to know that we have this this concept here that is more welcoming and accepting, and not having to waste the unfortunate time that most other unfortunate, you know, situations are, where women have to feel like they have to justify themselves, right?
That's right. I think it's important. It's important for everybody to know that they can find a home somewhere and have the confidence that they'll get the education that they want. You know, there's going to be like I don't know what it was, but $4 trillion in women's hands by like at the end of this decade. And
the last thing I want to do is be talking about it with a male, to be honest.
Well,
I think
no, not necessarily.
In certain instances,
Yeah.
I think so. It's
But
a
I
very
think it's
difficult
just
conversation.
male or female, more courses like I sat in
Yep.
that teach you how to talk to female clients and what they're looking to get out of these meetings is going to be more and more important
100%.
as this kind of wealth transition starts to really materialize.
I think so. As Jill indicated with our wonderful mugs, I also want to take an opportunity to just give a little quick shout out. This shirt that I'm wearing, no, I'm not joining some leftist extreme or rightist extreme party in Alberta, but rather what I'm doing is I met a wonderful, wonderful local Calgary business called Homeworks Brands at the Christmas fair at the Spruce Meadows this past year. I had a wicked conversation. I bought a lot of gear off of them. I'm only wearing one shirt, but I do think that they are a fantastic local company that is focused on a lot of very unique Western Canadian values. And yeah, I was going to wear my Alberta hat too, but I just had a really great haircut not too long ago, and I just wanted to be able to show it off. As you can see, I'm all business in the front.
Depends who you're asking, whether it's
Business in the front,
wonderful,
and party in the back, and this is why. But yeah, I just wanted to give this shout out before we ended the podcast. I think we've covered everything.
Yes,
okay.
I think we're right in line with our good old government. Buy Canadian.
That's right. Buy Canadian. Canadian
Buy
mugs,
local.
Buy the new Centre of Canadian Alberta brand.
Cheers. Thanks for joining us for Bearable Conversation.
As a young man, heard the sky's the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life jam, then I better.
This information has been prepared by John Reyes, Wealth Advisor, and Gillian Seguin, Associate Wealth Advisor for IA Private Wealth Incorporated, and does not necessarily reflect the opinion of IA Private Wealth. The information contained in this video comes from sources we believe reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy or reliability. The opinions expressed are based on an analysis and interpretation dating from the date of publication and are subject to change without notice. Furthermore, they do not constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned. The information contained herein may not apply to all types of investors. The wealth advisors can open accounts only in the provinces in which they are registered. IA Private Wealth Incorporated is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund and the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. IA Private Wealth is a trademark and business name under which IA Private Wealth Incorporated operates.